Let's be honest, the modern workplace can be incredibly chaotic and fast-paced, right? It demands a lot from us. But if you think you can rely purely on your intellectual or technical skills to guarantee your success, and frankly to preserve your sanity, well, it's time to think again. In today's highly interactive, always-on environment, those hard skills simply aren't enough on their own. What truly separates the most successful and fulfilled professionals is something else entirely. So, in this explainer, we're going to dive into a complete playbook for mastering that something else. We're going to figure out how you can think, be, and work much, much smarter.
Okay, to really get this, imagine a stack of perfectly balanced stones. That image right there is our ultimate goal. To achieve true stability in both our careers and our personal lives, we literally have to carefully balance our logical thinking with our feelings. For a really long time, the workplace was seen as this place purely for logic, right? You're supposed to just leave your emotions at the door. But research, and honestly just real-world experience, shows us that this isn't just impossible, it's actually completely counterproductive. True success, it lies in harmonizing the two.
So here's our roadmap. We are moving beyond technical skills to explore the 5 core EQ skills. From there, we'll break down a 3-part playbook covering think smart, be smart, and work smart strategies.
Now, we hear the term emotional intelligence thrown around all the time, but let's get crystal clear on what it actually means. Emotional intelligence is simply the ability to use your emotions in a positive and constructive way in your relationships with others. That's it. It's basically your ultimate toolkit for surviving and thriving. It means solving problems using both your head and your heart, responding thoughtfully to those difficult people we all have to deal with, and maintaining an outlook that actually propels you forward rather than holding you back.
To make this super actionable, we need a mental map. Everything we're talking about comes down to these 5 core skills: self-awareness, social skills, optimism, emotional control, and flexibility. Every single effective interaction you have at work, whether you're sitting in a one-on-one feedback session or leading a massive team project, absolutely relies on a combination of these 5 pillars.
Let's start with Pillar 1, Think Smart. These are our internal strategies.
So this first phase is all about looking inward, because before we can effectively manage our relationships with anyone else, we have to figure out what's happening inside our own heads. Think of your brain as a boardroom with 3 very distinct advisors: your instinct, your emotions, and your logic. Their shared goal is to keep you safe, but they have completely different skills. And because of that, they will often give you totally conflicting advice. One is screaming, "Run for the hills," another is yelling, "Let's fight 'em," and the third is just pushing up its glasses saying, "Well, let's look at the data." Your job isn't to silence any of them. Your job is to be self-aware enough to hear all 3 advisors and make the absolute wisest choice based on their combined input.
And right alongside that self-awareness is optimism. Emotionally smart people maintain a positive outlook because it literally gives them the energy to keep working steadily toward their goals even when massive crises hit. But here's the thing. Optimism isn't just some genetic trait you're born with. It's a daily practice. You build it by intentionally talking positively to yourself, by actively looking for the actual meaning in your day-to-day tasks, building a strong support network, and genuinely caring about the people around you. These actions physically and mentally energize you for whatever challenges are coming your way.
So, how does this build into our next phase? Well, we've just covered Think Smart, which is purely internal, your self-awareness and your optimism. Now we're going to flip it and shift our focus outward to Be Smart. This is all about your external environment. It's where we take that internal balance we just built and apply it to our social interactions, our communication, and how we adapt to the world around us.
Which brings us to Pillar 2, Be Smart. Our interpersonal strategies.
This interpersonal section is essentially your external armor and your connective tissue. We're looking at how social skills, emotional control, and flexibility dictate the success of your relationships. Let's look at a highly practical example. We all work with demanding communicators, right? The pushers? Their motto is usually something like, "Just do it my way." Instead of just getting frustrated, emotional intelligence gives us an actual strategy here. You manage a pusher by focusing on their need for quick results. Don't argue, don't tell them they're wrong. Instead, provide choices or options rather than telling them what to do. You're simply adapting your communication style to get a constructive outcome. It's brilliant.
But what happens when things get incredibly stressful? The author Daniel Goleman uses this fantastic term, emotional hijacking. This is when you are so overwhelmed by feelings, maybe it's fear, anger, or just a sudden wave of panic during a high-stakes meeting, that you act without any concern for your own or anyone else's safety. You just completely short-circuit logic. Some people get so hijacked they literally don't even remember what they said afterward. This is the ultimate failure of emotional intelligence, and we absolutely have to know how to prevent it. Preventing a hijacking requires serious emotional control, and that happens in two critical phases. Phase 1 is entirely about you. Before you can even begin to respond to someone else's anger or a sudden crisis, you absolutely must manage your own overwhelming feelings and get yourself back to a calm baseline. Think of it like putting on your own oxygen mask first on an airplane. Only when you've secured your own mask can you move to Phase 2, effectively responding to the external stressor and diffusing the situation.
The final piece of this interpersonal puzzle is flexibility. Emotionally intelligent people understand a simple truth. Resisting change is a massive waste of energy, so they stop fighting it. Instead, they focus their energy exclusively on the things they can actually change. They build on their past successes and use their EQ to uncover new, creative options. When a sudden transition happens at work, they don't stay stuck. They adapt and hunt for the best hidden opportunities.
I want to pause for a second and just ask you a real reflective question. What does your organization do right now to promote emotional control? Do you have actual guidelines for civil communication? If someone loses their temper, do they get helpful feedback, or is bad behavior just kind of swept under the rug? Keep your answer in mind, because it's the perfect bridge to our final strategy phase.
Pillar 3, the roof of our structure. Work smart. Organizational strategies.
Because it's not just about you as an individual, we have to zoom out. A truly smart organization is way more than just a workplace, it's a community. This is where we look at how leaders can construct an environment where emotionally smart people aren't just surviving, but are actively supported and allowed to thrive collectively. To build that, leaders have to implement these 6 macro strategies. And you'll notice, these beautifully mirror the individual skills we just covered, just scaled up. We need organizational self-awareness. We must actively train teams on social skills. Leaders have to foster optimism, encourage flexibility, publicly model emotional control from the top down, and consistently support teamwork. That is how you elevate an entire company's EQ baseline.
Let me share a really specific tool you can use with your team to build that organizational flexibility. It's a quick exercise called Imagine the Future. In your very next meeting, ask your team to anticipate major upcoming changes, whether they are technological, demographic, or economic. Then objectively evaluate which of your current practices will actually survive the next 5 to 10 years. This simple exercise stimulates collective imagination. It removes the fear of change, and it gets everyone solving problems creatively before a crisis even hits.
And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates the core message of our explainer today. It's captured perfectly in this quote by Alfred Lord Tennyson: "Knowledge comes, but wisdom lingers." We can all acquire technical knowledge, right? We can read the manuals, we can learn the new software, we can memorize the facts. But it is that deep emotional wisdom, the ability to understand ourselves, balance our logic and feelings, and navigate really complex relationships, that is what truly sustains us and brings lasting success to our careers.
So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. Which of the 5 EQ core skills are you going to actively work on tomorrow? Are you going to focus on your self-awareness? Practice your social skills? Cultivate a little more optimism? Maintain your emotional control? Or maybe embrace flexibility? Just pick one. Because building your emotional intelligence isn't a one-and-done event. It's a daily choice to think, be, and work smarter.